Hey everybody, it's Tommy Canale. And before we introduce today's guest, have you ever walked into a location and went a pastry shop, bookstore, maybe a coffee shop and went, if I could just take that scent home with me, I would love to have that. Well, now you can. Aroma Retail Scent Your Space has over 80 fragrances from resorts across the country, places, a mood collection, and seasonal scents. Here in Las Vegas, where I'm at, they have all the major casinos that have the different scents that you might want. Aria, Bellagio, Caesars Palace, Mandalay Bay, you name it. Low cost, simple, and easy to set up and use. Scent Your Space the same day you get your product. I'm going to tell you how to get this. Go to beforethelightspod.com and go to the sponsor page and click on the Aroma Retail logo. Use the code LIGHTS10. That's LIGHTS10 to get 10% off your offer. And please use the link. It lets them know that I sent you. I'm telling you, I love mine. I come in the door and I get hit by Mandalay Bay every time I walk into my house. So I am more than happy with Aroma Retail. You're going to love it just as well. And welcome to Before the Lights podcast, the show to find out how those in sports, music, and entertainment made their mark. Joining us today is a man of high integrity, a successful entrepreneur, a concert producer, manager, promoter. He's represented Dino, Jars of Clay, and discovered Grammy winner, Little Big Town. He has molded the careers of artists in every music genre, and at one time, he worked with Van Halen, Bon Jovi, Michael Sweet, and others. He has produced Tennessee River Run and formed mega music festivals such as Bama Jam, Pepsi Gulf Coast Jam, in which he is the executive producer, Sand Jam, and Spring Jam. He has been in the music business for 35 years. I'm going to call him the Jam Man. Please welcome to the show, Rendy Lovelady. Rendy, how are you?
I'm good, man. I'll send you a tip in the mail. That was pretty dang good. I'm impressed with myself.
Thank you. Where does the name Rendy come from?
It's actually Joe Render Lovelady Jr. So my parents, instead of calling me Little Joe, because my dad was 6'6", and my mom was 6 foot, they decided to call me Rendy, coming from Render.
Gotcha.
So it was a family name. It's real. Same thing with Lovelady. It's family name.
Who was Rendy Lovelady as a child, being that you were born and raised in New Orleans?
I was a preacher's kid. My father was a Baptist minister in a church in New Orleans that had about 200 members. And New Orleans being a predominantly Catholic town, it was very different for me. My childhood, it had a great childhood, but I definitely had that Baptist side brought up around me. So it was unique. It was unique. He loved music. I started sweeping the floors at the Sanger Theater when I was 13 in New Orleans. The Messina Brothers gave me a start there, and so it's kind of stuck. It was a good childhood, but it definitely was a Southern Baptist childhood. So that ought to say all I need to say right there.
Agree. You also played a little bit of football. How old were you when you started playing football? As a youngster and then all the way through college?
I did. I played at 12 years old and went all the way through college. Took my licks and even made a run at the professional league, and then decided to go be tour manager for Van Halen. So it just kind of fit more of my personality.
Understand that. You mentioned that you started sweeping floors for the Messina Brothers at 13 years old, but then later you were their national director of concerts. How did that happen, and what age were you when you started that job?
I graduated from college, and Louis Messina and Charlie Messina, which Louis actually is a leader of AEG concerts now. But Charlie, I mean, he had, there's those people in your life that play that influencer. Mm-hmm. And he was kind of the one that put me under his arm. And it started out as a job with Messina Presents, and then it turned into Pace Concerts, and then it turned into obviously what it is now, Live Nation. So it just grew in its own right. I was at the right time at the right place, and I was traveling with the band representing the promoter side. They call it a promoter's rep. And when that whole split up with Mr. Roth happened, I happened to be at the right place at the right time and got asked to come in and finish out that tour. And next thing I know, a couple of years later, they're knocking on my door again, and it was pretty awesome, man. It was it was a run for a long time. And when you're in the midst of the hair bands, everybody else wants you to play with them. So I did a run with Jovi, and I did a run with Motley Crue, and then started my own thing, managing while I was tour managing, trying to create it with Michael Sweet and Stryper, and then discovering Jars, just like you just said. So I kind of had a double dip for a while to pay my bills and build my career. But then long time later, I'm still kind of doing my own thing, staying in the music business. Some people think I'm crazy, but this is all I know.
I understand. You received your master's degree in religious education at the New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary. Was that the first original career path in, and then the music industry just kind of fell in your lap, so to speak?
No, not really. I was raised, I'm a man of faith. I'm a believer. And I thought that for a season, and I worked with my dad at his church, but I thought real fast that was not my path. But I still had an intellectual desire to study and to learn about God and learn about Christ. And so I kind of did that at the same time, even while I was a tour manager. Some people would have said that was a conflict. For me, it wasn't. I mean, I was doing my job, but then I was growing my faith. So it kind of came at the same time, doing the same thing. But it was definitely, I would be telling you a fib if I didn't think about it for a second, but it just wasn't my path. So I felt the call, and honestly, I feel like I've done more good in the kingdom's business doing what I do now than I ever would have done as a preacher or a teacher or something like that.
When you talked about, mentioned that, you were with Van Halen, Crue, Motley, or Bon Jovi, what can you tell my listeners, like the day-to-day grind of being on the road all the time?
I mean, honestly, the biggest thing that was the hard part was you wake up, you're loading in at 7 a.m., 8 a.m. You have, 15 semi trucks. Back then, they didn't have all the special lighting. It was all bulk trucks. And then you loaded in, you were ready for sound check about 2:00. You did sound check at 2. You fed your crew. You got everything settled in. You opened the doors at 6. You did your show about 7:30. You got your opening acts on. You got your next act on. Then you brought your headliner on. Then you got them taking off the show, coming off the stage. Then you put them back on the bus or the plane, whichever one they were going on. And you had to take it all down. You got in your bunk about 1:00 in the morning, and you tried to get some sleep on a bumpy bus between one city to the next, and you did it all over again. It's not a sexy life.
No.
They think, wow, you were a tour manager. You know what, man? I'd much rather been an accountant some nights, but the reality is it was my path. And I mean, I was good at it. I was young, and I actually did well early in my years, and then it kind of followed me through. I mean, you can look at my background. I have a lot of platinums. I have Grammys. I have all the bells and whistles. But the reality is, I mean, I honestly learned a lot in life, and I got some lifetime friends that will be with me forever.
How did you discover Little Big Town and then become their manager?
Well, the truth is, I lived in Nashville. I was the rock guy that did the rock stuff and the Christian stuff in Nashville, because I also managed a big guy by the name of Carmen and, Jars of Clay. And there's several other Christian acts in there that I managed at the same time. And one of the dark-headed girl and the blonde in the band Little Big Town were both really close to me because of the Christian world that we were in. And Kieran and Kimberly came in my office one day and sat down and said, we really want to try working in the country music business. So we started talking about a trio, and we started developing that idea and started listening to guys to bring in. We knew it needed to be a guy. And we started singing for people and started getting around town. And the next thing you know, we said, you know what, this is not unique. You had Lady Antebellum, and you had several other trios in the country industry. So we said, let's try to do the quartet thing. So we started Little Big Town as a quartet, 2 guys, 2 girls, and little trivia on the side. The first 2 guys in Little Big Town were Gary LaVox and Jodan from Rascal Flatts. But they had a cousin come involved, and Jay called up Gary and said, hey, I got this thing. And I went, well, you know what? You can't argue with that. So they went and started Rascal Flatts, and then we found Jimmy and Philip, and then the rest is history. They've been together now going on 20 years. It's been a great path.
Absolutely, it has. Did you really sign Jars of Clay on a napkin?
I did.
You did?
Wow, you have done your research. I did. I was actually on the road with Stryper, which was another Christian band, and we were in a little town in Greenville, Illinois. We're at Greenville College.
Yeah.
And the guys were playing at a coffee shop, and I literally went to see them play, and I was blown away. It's this new sound, this acoustic rock sound that had never come out. I didn't know they were a Christian band when I first saw them, and didn't really think of them as a Christian band. They're all young. The youngest guy in the band was 17, which that was a new experience for me. But they actually did a school project. I saw them that night. Let me finish that story. So I saw them that night playing, and I sat down and met with them, and I said, here's the deal. I want to sign a 6-month deal with you. I want to talk about what we possibly can do. And if something doesn't happen in the next 6 months, you owe me nothing. And then yet, if I pull something together, we're going to start working together and do a deal together. They had done a class project. You're going to love this. They did a class project for Greenville College. They made a D on the project, and that same project sold 6 million records later. That teacher will never live it down. But yeah, I did. We actually did a little promissory letter on a napkin, and we started from there. The rest is history.
You know, Rendy, I'm not so sure the mainstream public knew Jars of Clay was a Christian band.
They didn't. How do you know? The first single is a breakthrough single. It's top 5 in 8 formats, and it's a song about Noah and Ark. So how do you figure that? But they didn't. All of a sudden, the second record came out, and somebody went, hey, I think these guys are Christian. And I was kind of like, yeah, you think? But the truth of the matter is they walked their path, and they kind of played to both marketplaces. They played to the Christian marketplace and the rock marketplace, and they would play in twice the number at a neutral arena. And it really worked for their career. It was a good thing for them.
Who was the first group or artist that you managed then?
The first one, honestly, was Dino. Dino, the Christian concert pianist. He was my first signed artist, and I took him to Branson, Missouri. So, and then in the midst of that, that's when I started working with Stryper and then Jars of Clay. So, but Dino really he was the first one I actually managed, full-time managed him, took him to a theater show in Branson, which is very similar to Vegas, but just a much smaller scale. So yeah, he's my claim to fame.
For listeners out there that somebody might be going, I want to become and do what Rendy does and manage artists, not so much of the conscious stuff, we're going to get into that, but managing artists, what's the pros and cons that you can tell them? Well,
there's 2 ways to manage an artist. The first way is to manage them like I do, is like family. They become your family. They knew my kids. They came to my house. When they first start, they're broke, so you feed them. You give them a place to stay in your garage. I mean, it just you take them in like family. The other side of the way to manage artists is very much like a business. And honestly, probably there's pros and cons to both sides. The business side is very strict. It's very to the point. It's all about the business. It's all about the sales of records and the sales of tickets. It just wasn't my way. People ask me all the time, what would you tell a young artist, a young person that wants to manage? I mean, I'd tell them what I did myself. Go find an artist that's playing in a club somewhere that you have passion for and you love them, and you start following them and you start hanging with them and you start to know them. And then you say, okay, here's the deal. I don't want your money. I want to earn my pay. Because that's the other thing that most managers, a lot of guys are sheeps and wolves clothes, and they'll come at you and they'll act like they care. And then next thing you know, they're hitting you up for 20% on $1,000 show when you can't even pay your bills yourself. So, I mean, I tell artists to run away from that. If a manager has to live off of you from the very beginning, chances are you probably need to find another manager, because then you're going to have the tail wagging the dog. I always managed artists from the perspective, make the right decision for your career. Don't chase the money. If you chase the right decision, the money will follow. Always has, always will. I don't care if it's Fleetwood Mac, Jars of Clay, whatever it is. If you chase doing the right thing for your career, the money will follow. But anyway, so I tell them, find that artist, then go to them and say, all right, I'm going to start putting you in clubs. I'm going to start working you. I'm going to start building you in this certain market. And then I'm going to take that 15-mile radius and I'm going to make it a 30-mile radius and make it a 60-mile radius. And nowadays, with record deals the way they are, honestly, I mean, my thought would be sell out the trunk of your car and don't worry about a record deal, because a record deal is going to make you give most of it away anyway. Mm. And with social media the way it is, the truth of the matter is you don't need a record deal to have a successful career. There's tons of bands out there that are making big money, don't owe anybody anything, and yet they have their career and they're building it. So it's a long process, but then build them that way, show them your loyalty. As you grow them, then one day the commission can come and you can begin to say, you see, I stood with you when you were nobody, and then now I'm with you. And most of the acts that I was with, my average age was like 18 years. So, I mean, we go that long. And that's a long time in an artist's career. But there's some that lasted shorter, but that also was most of the time I could go back and finger point. That was probably built on the wrong motive from the very beginning. So live and learn. I mean, you know, I'm about to be 60 and I'm still learning, you know what I mean? So it's okay. I mean, if you're a young person and you want to manage somebody, find somebody you're passionate about, believe in them, and then go help them build their career and make the right decisions. Don't chase money. Money will follow.
I love the advice. And I love that you said that you're almost 60 and still learning, because I always believe that we're all lifelong learners, and we're learning every day in our craft, and we're never going to know everything. In whatever aspect you're in your life, you're never going to know it all. Never.
And if you say you do, that's your first thing that you did wrong. You just told a big fat lie, because you're going to learn one way or the other. It always happens.
Yep. Rendy, you have so much going with all the music festivals and managing artists, and you have Rendy Lovelady Management. What's the size of your team, and how do you stay organized with everything?
Well, I've kind of digressed and progressed, if you know what I mean. I reached a point after Little Big Town and I parted ways, probably 20 something years into their career, that I kind of went, I don't want to do this anymore. I kind of want to start the festival business, because for me, there's nothing more fun than live music. I mean, my girlfriend and I will go sit at a club even now and just listen to live music, because the people that are playing because they're passionate about what they're trying to do. So, I mean, from my perspective and all that, I have a staff of about, I would say 13 right now. And that involves several festivals, but staying organized and structured. I mean, it's a complicated thing, especially coming out of COVID, and our whole world was shut down for 20 months. So it was quite challenging to keep people employed, to keep people, focused, because, an idle mind is a dangerous playground. You know what I mean? So if you don't have that vision, and if you're not constantly pounding in, we got to sell tickets, things, people get bored and negativity sets in. So, I mean, it's definitely been a learning process, again, learning. And I've learned to motivate people different ways now, because sometimes the carrot that needs to be dangled is not selling tickets. It's all about building the future. And COVID, we actually were the Gulf Coast Jam was the first major, what they call mega event, over 20,000 people to happen in the country. And we did that in June. And boy, my staff, they just earned their pay so much, even after sitting off for 2 years, because you had every bullet coming at you from every different direction. The pros, the cons, we love you to we hate you. You're the best thing for our country, all the way to, I can't believe it, you're killing our people. And so there was lots of eggs to walk on and shells all over the place. But the reality is you find out who your staff is, what they're made of. And I'm just very thankful for my staff now.
Listeners, we're going to get deep into the Pepsi Gulf Coast Jam, the one in June. There's another one coming up over Labor Day. But before I go there, Rendy, if you would, how did you get connected with Daryl Worley and start up Tennessee River Run back in 2008?
Oh, Daryl, that's my brother from another mother right there. He had reached a point in his career where he felt like his manager at the time was not doing well. Little Big Town was blowing up, and Daryl came and called me up and said, I'd like to sit down and talk to you. So he actually sought me out, and he and I began to date, so to speak. And we talked for several weeks about different things and life itself, and talked about he had a a real vision. He comes from Savannah, Tennessee, and there was cancer. There was a paper mill in the city of Savannah, and cancer was rampant through the region because the paper mill and bad stuff in water and what have you. And Daryl came to me and said, man, here's my deal. Here's my package. I'm in a transition with my booking agency. I'm in a transition with my label. I'm in a transition with my festival. I need it to go to the next level. Can you come in here and make a part of it? So literally he and I sat down and said, let's try that. So we actually encompassed everything into the next deal that we did. So we cut a record deal with James Stroud, and Daryl was very successful before I got him. So my part in his life was just trying to make him more successful. And we combined it with his new booking agency, a new path. And then we also combined it all in to the Tennessee River Run, which his goal with the Tennessee River Run was to build a benefit that would help build a cancer treatment center. And that's what we did. We literally laid the brick by brick foundation. We spent the year raising money for the Tennessee River Run, but we spent the year, when you focus on this part of a career and not on selling records, like I said, do the right thing, the money follows. And we reignited his career. He had, tequila on ice, and he had a brand new hit again. He had brand new focus, and he was running and going again. And the truth is, even to this day, out of all the artists I've ever managed, I'd probably say, even when our time came to an end as management, he's still one of my dearest friends. I actually talked to him the day before yesterday, and he's still going. Tennessee River Run still going, still raising money for that charity, and they still continue to support Cancer Treatment Center in Savannah, Tennessee. It's a great, somewhere around there, there's a brick with my name on it. So it's a very passionate thing for me. But it became something that was, it's not a huge festival, but we do 5,000 to 10,000 people a night. And it was a couple of nights long, but it just made a huge impact in that community and in that area. And I'm just real proud of that too. But that's really what started me into the festival business per se. That's it.
I love hearing that story, Rendy. I'm a cancer survivor. And when you said you were building that building for those people, I mean, that touches my heart. I mean, that goes a long way. I mean, that's awesome to hear.
Thank you, man. It is. They had a region that they had to drive 120 miles to the nearest cancer treatment center, so they would be sick as a dog driving back home. And it just passionately touched me. And Daryl, man, it was his sole drive. And so I'll never forget when we opened it up and the first person went 6 miles to get its treatment for his cancer, he was like, life changed. And and some didn't make it, but most do make it because they get that proactive treatment. And it was amazing. So I got to be honest, it's one of my proudest career moments. I mean, the Grammys are important and the platinum records are important and all that stuff, but doing something like that, I mean, you're making a difference in people's lives. When I lay in that pine box one day, I don't really care if they say, well, he won 9 Grammys and 2 Academy Awards and sold 30 million records. That means nothing. But when you sit there and you say, man, the last count I heard, there was over 13,000 people that had been touched by that cancer treatment center. And that's changing people's lives. And that's what, when it's all said and done, that's what it's all about.
I agree with you 100%. What made you head to the Florida Panhandle to start Gulf Coast Jam?
Well, the truth is I had this little run that's called Bama Jam that was in Enterprise, Alabama. And I actually met the owner of that festival through Daryl Worley, doing the Tennessee River Run. And they had a cross up in that. And they actually, the owner came to me and said, would you come in and would you put this festival together? And we did. We went and put the festival together and began to work it and began to build on it and take it several more years. And then there were some problems legally with the property. And one of the things that make a festival work is you got to have the property consistent. You need to have a consistent date and a consistent place to have the same festival. You change the names of the artists, but there has to be a consistency in it. So when Bama Jam was coming to an end in 2012, my partner and I began to look for places that we sold a lot of tickets at, because that's what it's all about. And then we had to have a vision of the city, because when you do something like this, the city has to own you. They have to be proud of you and they have to embrace you. And we met with several cities. In Panama City Beach, the mayor at that time, her name was Gail. She was encouraging. She was skeptical because she'd seen all the pictures of the big parties in Bama Jam, but she also knew that that's the kind of thing that helps bring awareness about in the location. And this beach here is one of the most beautiful beaches in the world. And but it's still, people think of it, as a southern town and kind of like the redneck Riviera, and they're trying to increase their popularity and their vision here. And so we that's basically what it was, is we found a partnership with the TDC, which is a tourism department here in Panama City Beach, and the mayor and the city. And we started in 2013, and 22 will be our 10-year anniversary. So it's been an amazing run. Amazing.
Listeners, the Pepsi Gulf Coast Jam is the largest country music festival in the Southeast and nationally. They just wrapped up Gulf Coast Jam in June that saw over 70,000 people attend a 3-day event that has all 50 states, 14 countries. You're looking at over 23,000 people each day. You're looking at headliners like Luke Bryan, Brad Paisley, Leonard Skinner. They also had acts such as Cole Swindell, Billy Ray Cyrus, Brothers Osborne, and Cody Jinks. I mean, Rendy, was this a monster success for you guys coming back out of COVID?
It was. I can't even tell you. The music business as a whole was just shut down. There was no, you couldn't even do live events with 200 people in it, much less 30,000. So basically, the last event we had was in September, Labor Day of 19, and literally we sat for almost 22 months. And I mean, the music industry, these people are like me. This is all they know how to do. Whether you're a guitar tech or a stagehand or whatever it is, there's not a lot of depth in your career outside of the music business as a whole. And the reality is it was tough. I mean, people were unemployed. A lot of people, there's some people that live off of Social Security, but most people literally take pride in what they do and want to work. And when you have somebody that has a lot of pride and they want to work and they can't work, it becomes an emotional, discouragement to them. Mm-hmm. I'll never forget the first day we loaded in. Literally the first 9 semi-trucks came up with the stage, and the bus came out with all the stagehands, started getting off of it. And people, these grown men, big men, tough men, started crying because they were going back to work. And it was like they were excited and they were happy. And, normally they're grumpy because they've been working the whole year and they're tired. These guys, and forgive me, ladies as well, came just excited and ready to work. I can't even tell you how many times, man, thank you for the job, Rendy. Thank you for the job. And I'm sitting here going, dude, I'm just trying to stay a living, make a living like you are. So it became a rally. It became a pace. I know that there was a lot of concert promoters watching us going, okay, let's see if he's the sacrificial lamb or if he's actually going to pull this off. So I got some encouraging calls from some very high up people in the festival and concert business saying, keep going. And honestly, the agencies, all the major agencies that we had on our stages, they were very cooperative. It was a scary time because nobody knew what to believe. Nobody knew what to think was real or not real. You hear all these stories and then you hear all these other stories. And when you're sitting there going, well, what's the truth? You really didn't know what the truth was. So you just kind of started acting on your own. And we rescheduled it from Labor Day of 19 to, we were going to try it again in March. And we rescheduled it from March to May. And then Luke found out his finals for the American Idol was the same week as the festival. And he said, we need to move it. So we ended up moving it to June. So we moved that festival 3 times just to get it done. But it was done. We had to follow some strict protocols, and we had to follow some heavy duty rules and enforce some very heavy duty rules. But most people came to excited. We developed a protocol where people had to put a certain hand sanitizer on them, and we sprayed down all the facilities with a certain kind of chemical that was supposed to protect them for 3 weeks. And we built a .com where people had to take a survey, and you had to count on them telling the truth. which is, there's a possibility of them lying, but they had to answer the COVID questions. Have I been exposed? Do I have fever? Blah, blah, blah. And the bottom line is we didn't have one single case come out of Panama City Beach that week.
Love it.
Not one. And in the surrounding areas, there was not a spike in any location. Everything declined. Everything went down. So, all of a sudden everybody was going, let's do this. And I had artists, let me tell you a story. Standard that, these guys are old as dirt. They've been doing it forever, ever and ever. They hadn't played in 20 months. And they sitting there right before they go on stage. And the lead singer was sitting there he was just kind of rubbing his face and hitting his face. And I went, are you okay? Are you okay? He says, dude, I hadn't played to a crowd, much less 25,000 people in 20 months. I'm scared to death. And I said, well, dude, y'all know how to do it. And he said, I do know how to do it, but I hadn't done it in front of that. He said, there's a lot of rehearsals and videotapes out there that we tried, but it ain't nothing like getting in front of 25,000 people. But it wasn't just him. Brad Paisley, the next night, he's standing right there about to go on stage, and my partner and I walked him on stage, and he's sitting there doing his scales. And Brad Paisley's a virtuoso. And he was scared to death. He was white as a sheet. And I asked him the same question. He says, I have not played a show. He said, I've been doing this for 20-something years, and this is the first. I feel like I just started. So there was a lot of excitement. Man, they hit that stage, and it was crazy, and it was big, and everybody was happy, and it was a great, great weekend. It really was.
Can you tell my listeners the story about a gentleman in a seaplane?
Lord have mercy. Honestly, the truth of the matter is that in the festival business, you kind of improvise and adapt, right? After Vegas, what happened in Vegas, everybody, and especially like me, places like me, where I got high rises everywhere around my property, you think a facility is safe in the circle of the environment. You put up brick walls everywhere, you concrete, and you think, okay, we're safe. And then what happened in Vegas all of a sudden introduced a whole nother level of security risk, and especially with high rises. So now you put snipers up everywhere, you have hidden police everywhere, and you have all these big high-tech machines everywhere. And lo and behold, we're sitting in the middle of the festival, and there at the second night, it was the first night, and the seaplane just starts circling the crowd. And, I'm not gonna lie, we've had people do that before because, but then they get in trouble real fast because the police call, the aviation, and they call them up on there and say, you're in a non-flying zone, you need to get away or you'll get shot down, blah, blah, blah. And they move on. Well, this guy was flying under the radar. He was flying so low, it became very uncomfortable. And he did 3 circles, and everybody was trying to get him on the radio. And actually, we didn't even see him coming, didn't get any kind of warning because he was flying under radar. One of our snipers saw him from a distance, called it in, and that's when we all started watching. And the next thing we knew, this guy he started climbing, and he did a nosedive down. And he's coming straight for the crowd. And then they say about 150, 200 feet, he nosed up, and he dumped out a bunch of koozies that had an advertisement for a flight training school that he had. Well, oh my gosh. At the time, we were in what we call, I have this thing in the middle of in my shows where if we're evacuating for weather or whatever, because, in Florida and hurricane season, you never know what's coming up. And we call it the circle of life. And I have each division head from the sheriff's departments, from Homeland Security, and from the PD surround me. And that way we have total comms to all of our departments we have about 400 police officers on site. So everybody's in communication, and I'm sitting there and I'm going, what the crap is this? And nobody had an answer because nobody could get him on the radio. Nobody could talk to him. And then he nosed up, he dropped all those mugs out. And the truth is he flew and he circled again. So we didn't know what he had dropped out. We saw it was black. It could have been anything. So we're sitting here thinking the worst. Complete panic. And come to find out it was the koozies. And then they couldn't get a hold of him. So they took the cell number, or the number that was on the koozie, they pinged it, and it's in the plane. So this guy was trying to hide But he had his cell phone on. They pinged the cell phone number and followed him all the way down the beach and arrested his butt when he got off the plane. And he's going to be in jail for a long time to come. And he probably owes me about 9 pairs of underwear because I've probably sold every pair of them. Man. Wow. That could be the scariest I've ever faced. I literally did there for a few seconds. I thought we're about to have our version of 9/11. Opening first night, CNN, Fox News, every news nation was there, and anything could have happened. I just knew we were going to, at that moment in time, I just thought we were about to be the next catastrophe. And it turns out to be some nutcase throwing out advertisement for his air school, which, oh, by the way, that's a felony. You can't fly over people. So anyway, it definitely was a scary moment. No question.
Glad he's locked up, and maybe he'll learn that he's going to need, if he ever does get out, he needs a different marketing tactic because that's not working.
I would say marketing definitely affected his life very well.
The 9th annual is going to be Labor Day weekend with headliners Chris Stapleton, Brooks and Dunn, Old Dominion. How many other acts are going to be performing, Rendy, and how can people get tickets?
Well, there's 8 acts a day. And then we have our Southern Original. You're talking about management, that true love of that original artist. We actually have a competition. Last year, we had over 3,000 contestants enter to it. And the winner plays on the main stage at the first day or the headliner day, in this case being Brooks and Dunn. So, and then we have 6 finalists that play on a stage that comes into it. So if you make the top 10, you come to we bring you into Panama City Beach. Then you make the top 6, you play on the what we call the entrance stage. And then if you win, you play on the main stage. So anyway, we have everybody from Gary Allen to Tyler Rich. I mean, like it's Chris Jansen, Frankie Ballard, Scotty McCreery, Tracy Lawrence. We got everything in the gamut from brand new hot country to, people that have been around doing it along. We got Confederate Railroad this time. So we have a variety. But it's GulfCoastJam.com. It's one-stop shop. You can go there, buy a ticket. You can go there and get a lead to find a condo. And at Labor Day weekend, condos can be very challenging at times. All my career, putting butts in the seats. Well, now I do a show in Panama City. I'm putting heads in the beds because there's 20,000 condos down here and we're trying to fill them. So that's what we do, putting heads in the beds.
Listeners, go to the show notes. I'm going to put a link there where you can click and go directly to the site to purchase tickets. If you're going to be in the area or you want to go, I would highly suggest you take a look at it. I don't know where else you're going to go for a festival this size with this kind of headliners and that kind of act. So get yourself there to Pepsi Gulf Coast Jam Labor Day weekend. Rendy, back to that on Gulf Coast Jam. I'll let you say the names of the people. I saw it in research. I thought it was a hell of a story. In 2019, 30 minutes before one of your main headliners was supposed to take the stage, he canceled due to illness. And then, you got a lot of flack because this person didn't take the stage. You made a call to a friend of yours who saved the day, not only the festival, but people were ranting and raving after that.
It's the truth of the matter is it was a very hard night. It was Jason Aldean, and he was sick as a dog. His wife, his child had a stomach flu before. And it was a very challenging moment. That's to say the least. And we were at a place, we had no idea. He came in that morning and we put him on IVs. We called the doctors in. They gave him some Zofran. They settled his stomach down. They let him sleep for 8 hours. And we thought, okay, for sure he'd come out and give us, 45 minutes and then call it a night early and all that stuff. But he couldn't even, when he woke up, he went straight to throwing up and he could not even get out of bed. So in the middle of that panic, when the tour manager walks off the bus and says, Jason, he's not going on. You sit there and you go, are you freaking kidding me right now? And he said, no, I'm serious. And forgive me, my mind's drawn a blank, but the guys that were on the stage, I called their manager and I said, I can't believe I can't remember their name. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
So they called a manager who's been a buddy of mine forever. And I said, I need the guys just to keep playing. He said, well, go up on stage and get on the in-ears and ask them. So literally went up there on stage and asked the guys, it's a duo, forgive me, I cannot remember their name. It's two guys that have been around for a while, and they were direct support, and they did amazing. And they brought the house down. I mean, everybody was just nuts, but you're right. I received so much criticism because they thought I'd known the whole day. They thought that I had planned it out that way. And then when everything was said and done, I mean, I literally, they were so concerned with my safety, they made me stay on my bus after they played. So then I called Bob, big Kid Rock. And I said, Kid, if you ever delivered a performance, I need you to do one for me tonight. I said, I told him what happened. And of course, he had his own opinion about what happened. And he said, Rendy, I'm going to rock that world. And I want you to know, Bob came out there in the middle of Gulf Coast Jam. And I realized it was a slight departure for us because we're a flat country festival. But I mean, Kid Rock's got so much country root. He is the man. Mm-hmm. And he went out there, and to this day, now it's been several years later, he is the favorite show of Gulf Coast Jam history.
Wow. And
he got up there and delivered a show with production, with the bells and whistles that only Kid Rock can perform. And that night, after everybody's over with, and I said, okay, I told my security team, I said, I'm going out. I got to go see my people because I can't let them think I'm afraid. So I had 5 bodyguards around me at different parts of the street because they all walk, they're walking out. It's like a football stadium, and everybody's walking out. And everybody's high-fiving me and said, we love you still. I mean, the night before they were saying, you rotten piece of poo-poo. I mean, it was bad, but, man, the Kid Rock he saved the world, man. He did. He delivered the goods. It was awesome.
Rendy, what do you think the future of live music is now that it's back?
I think without question, based on our actual numbers, I think we're going to see such a spike in live entertainment, whether it's movie theaters, because once you don't have it and you can't have it and you're forbidden to be there, I think there is a withdrawal that you just kind of take for granted, because honestly, I've been in this business 30 something years and I've never gone without live music, never. And then all of a sudden, for 20 months, 22 months, I couldn't do anything. And I think the pin-up demand for live music is just going to be undeniable. The numbers in live events right now where people are actually being able to go are amazing. The numbers are huge, and the people are just so excited. Even our show, the first night, I have never heard a crowd roar. Skynyrd hit that stage and they started doing what Skynyrd only. I can't think of another band more fitting to celebrate freedom than Lynyrd Skynyrd. And they got up there and they started singing Free Bird, and the whole crowd was singing with them. And then they went to Sweet Home Alabama. And they just were singing, and everybody was singing. And you look in the crowd and everybody had their arms around each other, swaying back and forth. And these are strangers, man. These people don't know each other from Adam. And you saw 25,000 people in one accord, one body, under God, under country, and happy and excited. And I think we're going to see live music come back like never before. I really do. I know that our September sales are blowing away our June sales being the first event, and people are just excited. They keep saying, I can't wait, can't wait, can't wait. So we're excited about it.
And then you're going to have Sand Jam in October, right?
Yeah. 3 festivals in 4 months.
Woo!
And then we're going on a vacation somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and I'm not going to tell nobody. My girlfriend and I are going to just go, don't call us. We'll call you. We have our rock festival, which is normally it's in April, but because we've had to reschedule it and all that stuff again, we're doing it in October. So 3 festivals in 4 months. It's going to be a lot. Exciting to have something because we were sitting for 2 years.
I understand that. Do you think the difference in music these days versus where it was 10 years ago is that it's going back to singles, and we're not seeing the LPs like we were before?
100%. Just talking to my buddies that are signing record deals right now, or even new artists are coming. They don't come in with a record project. They come in and they get a EP deal, or they get a single deal where they take one single, put it out on radio, see if it sticks. If it sticks, they'll feed the beast one more time. If that sticks, the third time they'll make an EP out of it, and then they'll make a record. And sometimes they don't even make a record. They go straight from an EP to another EP. Yeah, there's not a lot of depth because honestly, with music theft and with satellite radio and with Apple Radio and Apple Music and all the other different kinds of musics, people aren't really buying music like they used to. They're more listening to music. There's more people that know a song but don't know the artist than ever before. I mean, especially now being a promoter, trying to promote shows of people that you would think would be huge, but they don't really know their name of the artist, but they know their music. So you have to spend a lot of time educating people on what music they played and they go, oh, I know who that is. So even their faces, because MTV doesn't exist anymore like it used to. And so you don't see the videos like they used to. And so you're having to find other ways to sell tickets, to create energy. 100%.
I'm a big vinyl guy, so I've always been in vinyl. I'm glad vinyl's making somewhat of a comeback. I think people buy it now as more of a vanity. There's some of us that are big into vinyl. We collect it, but I'm glad it's there because I think it's still helping with exposure.
Well, there's also an authenticity to a vinyl sound than there is to any digital sound. I know it sounds like an old man talking, but it's the truth.
Without question.
I can listen to a record and feel a warmth and feel a sound that you'll never hear. I don't care how digital the digital is. You'll never hear that sound on a CD or a digital download. So I'm with you. I love vinyl. Love vinyl.
When it's all done for you and you decide to walk away, you're not going to do festivals anymore. What do you want your legacy to be?
That's a great question. When it's all said and done, I don't want to be the guy that sold tickets. I don't want to be the guy that had Grammys. I want to be the guy that loved his family, loved his friends, and people knew me about my faith, not about my success. Because honestly, you can't take that with you. The legacy is left in your people that you leave behind and what they believed about you. I can't be honest enough and say there wasn't a time when I was driven for the Grammys and for the Academy Awards and for the accolades and the successes. But there's nothing like, your child looking at you and say, thank you for coming to this. I can't believe you made time for me, or whatever it might be, or cancer treatment, or St. Jude's is we're big into St. Jude's. We give tickets or money out of our tickets to St. Jude. It's just, it's more about what you make a difference in people's lives. And again, I've come full circle on that. When I was young and stupid, all I wanted was, the next Grammy, the next platinum record. But it's not what's important. And it's relationships, and it's the people that you can speak into their lives. When it's all said and done, that's what makes the difference. And that's not just me talking. That's my true, honest, sincere feeling.
I can feel that coming through in the interview and the way you're talking. And something that's important to me is time. I value it. I value other people's time. I thank you for your time and being on my show and telling your story and telling about the festivals. I want to say thank you. And I want to say thank you for my listeners.
It's anytime I can share who I am and what I am and how I got it to be, it's an honor and a privilege. Thank you for having me.
Listeners, if you would, please go and rate and review the show for me. It takes 30 seconds on any platform that you're getting the podcast. Please rate and review the show. 5 stars, nice comments are always appreciated. If you would, follow me on Instagram at Before the Lights Podcast. Until next time, everybody, thank you for listening to Before the Lights. I'm Tommy Canale. A salute. A chin chin.